they were in the church, and it was basically the girl and her grandmother. They were in the church together, and they were kind of talking about, like, love and everything. And the grandmother was basically saying, like, what do you truly want in your heart? And the girl knew that in her heart she really wanted him, but she was just really, having a hard time. So, you know, in the airport, he's expressing his love for her, and the family's there, and she's kind of just, she takes this moment to kind of take it all in, and she has to make that decision of what to do. And, she finally makes her decision, and she decides to stay at home. And, it's this big celebration, and basically, the boy and the girl, they end up creating their own restaurant together. So they have their own pizza business. And in the opening, so it was really like kind of like double in a way. It was just like, it was basically like a package deal of blessings for the whole family, because it was the grandparents getting married. They had their wedding in the restaurant. Then it was the restaurant opening as well. And also the parents, they were fighting for all those years, but they finally got to talk out like why they had that fight, and they were able to make up, and you know have that relationship be restored as well. So it was just really just like restoration and new beginnings for the entire family, and they were also able to bless the whole community through their business and just the celebration. So, and it was feasting, there was, they were eating the pizza and everything. It was literally like pizza was what was served, instead of the wedding cake, it was literally pizza. Um, and so, and mind you, this was an Italian family, so, and it's called Little Italy, so, that might be confirmation for someone with, Italy. But yeah, that was pretty much the movie, and I feel like the Lord was speaking a lot through that movie. And there was also, one moment in the movie as well where um, she had said to him, like, I waited all this time for you, and when it's when I want to leave that you decide to finally come forward. And his response to her, he said, it's not about my words, it's about my actions. And so, with this part, it's like, even if maybe at some point your spouse might have apologized, maybe it wasn't for everything, but maybe it was for something specific. But, they never fully, like, took accountability for everything and made themselves clear in what they wanted. But, this is the time God is saying that, they are going to, make known how they truly feel, and it's not going to stay hidden. And yeah, they might have waited until, they thought it was too late, but they're going to show you not only with their words, but with their actions that they're serious about how they feel about you. And they're going to want to do things to make it up to you. And so even in the movie, another theme, between both movies actually, another theme was a garden. And so this really reminds me of, Song of Solomon, with the garden. And also just like, even like the Garden of Eden, and just like being in this land of happiness and dwelling with God and being fruitful. So so yeah, they, like, on the roof of the building there was a garden. Um and so that was another theme as well. But basically, what the Lord was really highlighting to me through this movie is that, you know, the girl, she was patient, she basically kind of did what she could to make known that she, had feelings for him, and she was patient for his, pursuit. And, she got tired in the waiting, and she kind of had enough, and she kind of made this silent exit. And basically the Lord wants you to know, like, if you've been kind of in a similar situation where you've been waiting, you've been standing, and they just have not committed, they have not expressed how they feel, despite, you recognizing that they have these feelings, and they just been kind of sitting back on it, the Lord is giving them that wake up call and that nudge to come forward. Because, you know, God has been gracious, God has been patient with them, but at some point, like, they have to, like, make, things known, they have to come forward. Because if they don't, like, it's just not going to help the situation. And God knows that you've been waiting, God knows that you've been tired, and, if God has been leading you to step back or make this silent, like, disappearance or this silent exit, like, if God has led you to do that, just know that, it's going to kind of stir them to come forward. It's kind of going to wake them up. It's going to make them realize that they took you for granted. They took, your patience and your waiting for granted. And yes, they might have dealt with fear because, that was what the boy dealt with in the movie. They might have felt with insecurity. They might have dealt with insecurities and feeling like not ready or not good enough, or, they feel like, oh, it's okay if I just settle for a little bit, or just, be complacent and just be okay with just being where things are right now. But they're never going to be satisfied with that. And, they've made excuses, and there's just been enough of that. So things are going to change. And once things do change, it's going to lead to blessings. It's going to lead to unity. It's going to lead to generational blessings. It's going to lead to being able to impact others for the kingdom of God. It's going to lead to, lives inspired by this story and transformed, and, being open to allowing God to lead their life. So there was redemption for sure. And the other movie that I felt led to watch was called Just Like Heaven. And what stood out to me in this movie was that the I guess you could say man and woman, they had a spiritual connection. And this connection was ordained. Like, it was, like, basically God is saying, like, these connections are ordained by him. And these connections are already, like, they've been ordained, they've been established in the spirit already. And so you might have felt a spiritual connection to your spouse before you even met them. And I know that this was kind of the case for me. And so when I did end up meeting my spouse, like, I felt like I felt something, there was this this feeling that I had that I haven't had with anyone else. And that's what God has done. Like, he's placed this knowing and this connection and this love there. And the love grows over time, and you come to this realization over time. But there's just been something that was placed there by God, and it's something that can't be, revoked or removed because God placed it there. So basically, in this movie, the girl goes through a tragic car accident on the way to meeting a date. And she's in a coma, but her spirit is outside of her body. So she thinks that she's still alive and she's trying to go about her normal life, but she's only able to connect with the man that's living in her apartment. So the apartment was being rented out for a few months during the time that she was in her coma. So he just thinks, like, okay, like, this apartment is available, let me just rent it. And even with him getting that apartment, it was definitely like this divine orchestration. And so she is like, why are you here? You need to leave. And he's like, where did you come from? Like, you need to leave. And so they start off, like, in this time of being very annoyed with each other, not wanting each other around. But they end up needing each other because they end up helping each other when it comes to, like, both of their lives. So the girl, she was a doctor. She basically had to, basically he was helping her to remember who she is and like really understand her story. And she was helping him to heal from um, the loss of his previous partner, which, you know, she passed away. So, you know, in her time of, you know, her rediscovering who she is, because at first she didn't remember who she was or anything that happened to her. So they're kind of having to like retrace the steps and figure it out. And so, and also, even when she first, you know, kept popping up in the apartment, he thought that it was a ghost or some sort of spirit. So he's going to all these different sources, like a bookstore, trying to get books and trying to have somebody like a priest do like sprinkle the holy water in the house and stuff like that. So he's going to all these other sources trying to like get her out of his apartment. And so this might have been like, you know, something that you might have experienced, you know, just like, you know, you coming across each other and, you know, you not fully understanding what this was, or maybe it was your spouse that didn't fully understand, or maybe it was you that didn't fully understand. But like the guy was trying to get her out of his life. And, you know, the girl was saying, you need to leave. Like, this is my place. So just with the guy going to those other things, it's really like, you know, maybe your spouse thought that you were not of God. And so maybe they were like deceived and they just didn't fully understand. They didn't fully have their eyes opened. And so they're going to these other sources outside of God to try to understand what's happening and try to see like, oh, let me just see if I can do something to get her away from me, not knowing that this is the person that's actually meant for them, you know? So, so there may have been like that rejection initially, that just wanting to like make you not exist in their world, you know, but God didn't allow you to leave their world because you are supposed to be in their world. So she's a doctor and she really did not um basically she realized through her life that her life really evolved around work, and work was kind of an idol for her, and she wasn't really like taking the time to truly enjoy her life. And before the accident happened, she got a promotion and she was really happy and excited about it, but that would have required her to put more time into her job, which that was already pretty much her life. And the people around her, when they were trying to figure out who she was and they'd ask about her, they would just say, yeah, like she seemed lonely, she didn't seem happy, she was just always busy, like we didn't really see her much, she was just working all the time. So like that might have been the case, you know, before meeting your spouse as well. Like maybe you didn't really feel like you were truly living, or like maybe your life was kind of revolved around your career, or, you know, certain things, but you didn't really feel like you were truly living, or you were truly like taking the time to enjoy your life. And maybe you were blessed, maybe you experienced promotion, but you just didn't have that sense of fulfillment. And so, you know, even with the guy, like, you know, he felt like he was kind of a shell of a person because of this grief that he experienced. So, you know, your spouse might have, you know, maybe at one point they were very like open and you know, they shared their heart with someone, but they experienced grief, they experienced loss, and that really kind of affected them, and they're kind of like not the same person that they were. And your love is really helping them to heal, because the girl was encouraging him to talk about it and to open up and not keep it, you know, hidden. Because even when he went to the bookstore to try to like get help on what to do, the bookstore owner, he was able to sense things in the spirit, and he recognized that the guy had a very like blackened heart because of what happened in his past.